Okay, so today we're going to do a deep dive into something pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It has to do with Elon Musk and the Pentagon.
Oh.
So, you sent me this article that details some controversy and then also an investigation.
Right.
So, I guess our mission here is to unpack what happened and why this is significant.
Yeah.
And what are the key points?
I think that's a great way to put it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the source is an article reporting on a polygraph investigation, which was launched by the Pentagon
Wow.
after Elon Musk, demanded action over some leaked information.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So this all kind of stems from this visit
Right.
that Elon Musk made to the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's the head of several companies, obviously.
Right.
And a lot of these companies have very significant defense contracts.
Sure.
So he goes to the Pentagon to discuss cost cutting and innovation, which, sounds like a pretty routine kind of meeting, right?
Yeah, that's what you would think.
But then right before this visit, the New York Times publishes this report.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is where things get a little bit more complex.
Interesting.
So the NYT, citing multiple sources, mind you,
Right.
reported that Musk was expected to receive top-secret briefings
Oh, wow.
on U.S. military strategies,
Okay.
specifically concerning a potential conflict with China.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking about like highly classified details
Yeah.
about how the U.S. military would respond in a conflict.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah, so you can see how this immediately raises some red flags, especially when you consider Musk's business interests
Right.
and also his very public views on China.
And his stance on Taiwan too, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually one of the fascinating points here.
Yeah.
Musk has previously suggested that Taiwan's a part of the People's Republic of China, and that it could potentially become some kind of administrative zone.
Right.
So
Makes you think.
that alone raises some eyebrows.
Right.
Now imagine that he's going to receive sensitive intelligence that relates to that exact geopolitical hotspot.
Yeah.
So why is this a concern?
Uh-huh.
Well, because his businesses in China could potentially create a conflict of interest.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right.
Yeah.
So having access to this sensitive information could be problematic, to say the least.
Definitely.
Yeah. But then almost immediately we get these denials from top U.S. officials.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So both then President Trump and Defense Secretary Hegseth, they both denied that there were ever any plans for these high-level briefings from Musk.
Wow. So right away there's a difference in the story.
Exactly. And that's what's so interesting about this.
Yeah.
It creates this divergence in narratives from the very beginning.
I wonder what the reason is for such strong denials right away.
Right.
Regardless of whether the briefings were actually planned or not.
Right.
It really highlights just how sensitive these discussions are.
Yeah. And then Musk himself, he doesn't just, stay silent.
Oh, really?
No, he goes on his platform X.
Right.
And calls the leaked information misleading. And he actually demands legal action against the Pentagon officials that he believes are responsible for this.
Wow.
Yeah. So a very strong reaction, to say the least.
It is. That brings up an interesting point, though, about accountability.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a private citizen, obviously very influential.
Yeah.
But still a private citizen calling for legal action against government officials. It really underscores the power dynamics at play here.
Totally.
It's pretty fascinating.
And the Pentagon's response was, it indicated they were taking this very seriously.
Makes sense.
So Joe Casper, who's the chief of staff to the defense secretary at the time,
Okay.
he announced an investigation into this unauthorized disclosure of national security information.
Okay.
And he even explicitly mentioned the possibility of criminal prosecution for those responsible for this leak.
So they weren't messing around.
No, they were not.
Okay.
And there's this internal memo from Casper. It's dated March 21st.
Okay.
And it really emphasizes the urgency and the seriousness of this whole situation.
Yeah.
It states that the investigation is going to commence immediately.
Right.
And it's going to focus on identifying the sources of these leaks. And then also they're going to recommend preventative measures to, make sure this doesn't happen again in the future.
So trying to plug the holes.
Exactly. And then maybe the most interesting detail that emerges is that Bloomberg reported that this investigation includes the use of polygraph tests.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
polygraph test?
Yeah, to identify the source of the leak.
Okay, so they really want to find out what happened.
Yeah, they really want to get to the bottom of this.
It seems like a high level of concern within the Pentagon regarding this.
Right.
A breach of information like this, and they want to figure out how it happened.
Exactly. So I guess if we pull all of this together, what are some of the key takeaways that, that we should be aware of here?
I think a good place to start is that this situation really highlights a clash between, national security concerns, the media reporting on these very sensitive matters, and then the influence of these private sector leaders who are deeply involved with the government.
Yeah, like a very unique intersection of all three.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's one.
Yeah. And secondly, I think the core issue really revolves around the potential exposure and unauthorized leaking of this classified military information. Like in the Pentagon's reaction, regardless of whether the initial New York Times report was entirely accurate, it still confirms that they view this as a very serious breach of protocol.
Yeah, for sure.
And then finally, we have these conflicting accounts about what was actually planned in terms of briefings, which creates a lot of uncertainty. But regardless of that, the fact that the Pentagon launched this investigation, including the use of polygraphs, it really underscores that they're treating this leak itself as a significant national security matter. So it's not about what the content of the leak was. It's about the fact that there was a leak at all.
Exactly.
It's a big deal.
And it highlights, just how important it is to have robust systems in place and protocols for handling sensitive information within the government.
Right.
And it also maybe exposes some vulnerabilities that exist, in this era of rapid information sharing.
It's a different world now than it used to be.
Absolutely. So I guess on that note, here's a final thought to kind of leave everyone with.
Okay, I like it.
This whole situation raises some very important questions about the balance between transparency, national security, and then the influence of these private sector leaders who have significant government ties.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. So what does this incident tell us about how sensitive information is handled? Especially in this era of, rapid information dissemination. And this increasing entanglement of technology and national defense.
It's a really good question.
It is.
A lot to unpack there.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, thanks for
of course.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Happy to be here.
See ya.